We're back. We're live. Just waiting for some people here.
Stay online all the time?
What?
You guys stay online all the time?
Well, if you do a live stream, anybody that's interested in, so any of my subscribers basically gets a notification that I'm live. So, and I can see actively how many people are watching or whatever.
Well, the fire is almost done. Not much left. All the boards are cut in half.
But now we've got good heat going, so that's good. I'm just waiting for...
I'm going to let you do that. I'm going to go watch Judge and...
Have fun.
Can't wait to see what she has to say. I left the TV on just for that.
Ah, somebody's here. Somebody showed up. I just saw it. I have one person watching. Who's here? Yes, Adirondax is here. Yeah, I'm back. I couldn't stay away. Yeah, I'll be around. All right. I just lost my neighbor here. He's now headed in. But I'm back. I'll watch the fire for a bit. Any questions, Adirondacks? Just you and me here. Can you hear me okay? No. Thank goodness, no cherry trees. Actually, this is pine, which came off the mill just the other day. The pine. I got a bunch of logs. Hang on. Yes? Hang on. I'm on live. What's up?
So Dave said the game is on.
What?
Baseball game. He's calling to see if you're watching the baseball game.
No, I'm not watching the baseball game. I'm on live stream. I know. Probably Red Sox. Yankees, right? Anyway, not interested. So, yeah, no, we're not burning cherry trees. We're burning pine off the mill. I got a load of logs from a guy that actually when I first got the mill and needed logs, he dropped me a whole bunch of logs. He was the first guy that did that. And I got a call the other day, and he said, I got some logs here, and they're like 20, 24 inches. They're straight, nice logs. Okay. I said, drop them. So he shows up, and I wasn't here when he dropped the logs, but they're not straight, and most of them are kind of small, so I was able to mill a few of them, but a lot of them I'm just going to have to cut up and give to my scrap guy. And I got a comment earlier from Stephen Kroon. He said that he was disappointed that he missed a lot of the chat, so I figured I'd come back, and this time I actually have a battery on my phone, so I can talk and whatever, and we can go for a little bit here if need be. We got 4 people on, so who's on other than Adirondacks? Hey, Tim. 100 acres with enough pine for a lifetime. A dream come true, sir. I could build all kinds of fun stuff with that. You know what I did on my mill, though? I don't have a wood miser. I have a Woodland Mills, and it's a small mill. But what I ended up doing was I got 25-foot rails, actually 30-foot rails, which is just 3-inch by 4-inch steel L channel, or L, basically just L-shaped, and it built up the rails. And I'll tell you what, I love having all that space to go back and forth on with the mill. So really super nice if you're doing beams. And now I'm kind of regretting not keeping the rails at 40 feet, you know, because the pieces of steel come from the steel place at 40 feet, and I think it would have been really nice to have all 40 feet, just in case you want to make a really super nice beam. I mean, you could make one hell of a ridge beam with that for a nice little cabin or whatever. Would be killer good. 30-foot ridge beam. Oh. Steve, what's a good idea? I have lots of good ideas, but I never know what are good and what are bad. The ridge beam idea, or the long rails, or just a fireside chat? I think the fireside chat's a really good idea. You guys want to pick my brain or whatever, and I'm sitting out here in front of a fire, kind of bored for the first time in a while. Yeah, I figured the chat would be a good idea if people want to talk or ask questions. I mean, I have all kinds of questions, all kinds of other random days, but not to mention cedar, cherry, red and white pine, 600 maple forest. My buddy taps syrup. Adirondacks, an absolute dream. It would be a dream. It's wonderful. I live on half an acre. Turtle time. I'm new. What's going on, man? So, turtle time, I'm just literally doing a chat here, just for kind of the heck of it. If anybody has any questions or comments or anything, welcome to share. This is all live, and I got my kids making noise, and they shipped me some 80-foot white pines. What the heck would I do with them? I'd have to cut them in half, and it would just kill me to do that. Shoot, if you could make, just think about it, if you could make a, well, let's see. Chainsaw your braids out, yeah. If you could make rails that were 80 feet and straight, you could get your wood miser on there. Hokey crow. 80 feet's a bit long of a span, though. I did let's see, my shed over there that I built, which you guys can't see because it's dark. Let's see. Nope, it's dark. My shed that I built over there, I have a 16-foot span. It's an 18-foot ridge beam. It's like 18 and a half feet. It's one of the biggest logs I had ever milled. It was enormous. At least for me. 18 and a half feet long. Yeah, we have quite a bit of pine around here too. And around here, the tree guys got to get rid of it, and they really don't like cutting it. So that's why I get it for free. Railroad tracks or something. I don't think you need railroad tracks. I think even if you got 40-foot L, how hard is it? If you get 40, well, hang on, turtle. if you got 40-foot L, you just weld two of them together or just put them together and make sure everything's level. You could, you don't even necessarily need concrete under there. You put railroad ties underneath it and level it. Might take some time, but you could do it, and you get a beam that would be pretty straight. But again, I don't know what the spec on that would be to have a certain amount of both height and thickness for an 80-foot span. That would be kind of crazy. And all right, am I sitting on my mic? No, I don't even know where my mic is. Is it under here? Yeah. Sorry. How hard is it to stream? How hard is it to stream? Not hard. Why are we talking about trees? Why not? Talk about whatever you want. Adirondacks has lots of trees, so why not talk about trees? And I do plenty of milling, so fine to talk about trees. And I think I've amassed now 17 cherry trees on half an acre. Chainsaws, trees, baseball. Sounds fine. And I'd rather be here sitting than watching baseball. I like baseball, but more fun sitting here talking to you guys, I think. I think this live streaming stuff is crazy. Chainsaw Raptor. What's a chainsaw raptor? Okay. A raptor with chainsaw. All right. Actually, I'm waiting for Steve Robb to chime in here and ask me something. I'm just waiting for Steve to ask me if I run either 32 to 1 or 50 to 1. You can talk about dynos if you want. I don't know if, I don't think dynos really works for me. You're the frog singing. Yeah, we got tree frogs out here, crickets. I'm close to the highway, but that's all background noise. Yes, I did see Walt's 361 build. I built the 360 and then gave it away. I did the saw giveaway. Who did I give that to? I don't even know if it works. Turtle, I would say that you're probably a little off topic, but I don't know really what to say about the 361. Mostly because for me, when I tried the 360 and I tried to get it to run, I just wasn't super impressed with it. It was kind of... It just was underwhelming. Maybe the 361 would be awesome. I don't know. But I just don't have that much use for it. Right now, I'm, my personal level of use, I like my Husky 350s, and for the hell of it, I'll pull out one of my Chinese 660. But other than that, I'm running my 394s. Even my 372s, which I have a few of, kind of sit around. So why do you think chainsaws think the engineer oil specs are only EPA mandated and not justified? That is a complex question, Steve. Can you rephrase the question? What I see in my saws, just because I tear down a lot of stuff. What I tend to see is actually exactly what Walt sees. It's the same issue. Is people that are running 50 to 1. EPA, do we have all day? Oh God. But people that are running 50 to 1, their saws internally are pretty dry. Do we second guess the engineers? It's not a matter of necessarily second guessing the engineers. It's just the 50 to 1 stuff looks kind of dry inside. If you're running 40 or 32 to 1, then you pull these saws apart and they have a much nicer film of oil coating everything. And I would definitely say that that especially with a lot of the Chinese bearings, I would say, geez, you really want more oil on those than not. So I tend to put more oil in than 50 to 1, that's for sure. But do we second guess the engineers? Every darn day. Looks are subjective. It looks dry. It just looks dry in there. I really don't like saws that look dry. But it's an interesting question. Do we second guess the engineers? I would say that the engineers are also controlled by, they might be kept on a tight leash by the accountants for whatever reason. And it's also in the best interest of the saw companies to sell chainsaws. They're in the saw selling business. That's what they do. And this is one thing that I mentioned a while ago, which was, is there a relationship of dry versus wet in saw life? Well, what I think, Steve, it's a great question. I think wet allows more fault tolerance effectively. If you have a wet internal to a saw, I think that allows you to have more fault tolerance if something happens. The saw runs lean for a particular period of time, it runs hot, whatever it is. I think there's more fault tolerance there. What's my wife doing? I actually don't know. Where is she? What's she doing? Have no idea. She was on the phone with a buddy of mine, and hopefully she's now pestering Polly. Walt thinks different. Walt has a way of thinking, and I end up having a way of coming around to Walt's thinking. Not always, but he's pretty convincing. Walt's funny. I really wish I got to spend more time with him. But he's like 6 hours away from me. I don't know if I'll ever get out to his place. And I was supposed to be in Tennessee today for the get-together, but that didn't happen. I just... Walt thinks the oil give more power, not just lubrication. I don't know. I don't know. I think that would be relatively easy to prove or deny if you have a dyno. But you need a chainsaw dyno, and there are guys that have fiddled with that, and a dyno for a chainsaw is not super easy. So then what happens is guys run. I know there's a guy on OPE that runs. Does all kinds of testing and whatnot, but you're still subjected to the sharpness of the chain and everything else, and you run a bunch of different oils and mixes and whatnot, and you come out with whatever. With whatever times, and you have to say, geez, are those tests really valid? I don't know. You gotta, you'd have to think that there would be a gold standard, and it would probably be a dyno. And the dyno that I saw, that Bill Corey made with Eric, was really nifty, but it had some significant issues. And I needed to interpolate the data significantly, and I made videos of that a couple of years ago. There was a lot of interpolation to the data, and it just wouldn't filter itself. So who knows whether that was really valid or not. And Stefan, your wife wants to know, I don't know what she's doing. I hear Polly in there, and she's squawking her head off, but I do not know what Katrina's doing. Walt has tried both ways on a big bore, and he can feel a difference. Okay. I don't know, and personally, I'm not that much of a tinkerer. So, this is one of those philosophy things. Like, there are some guys that like to fiddle with saws, and they'll go, like, Tree Monkey will go back in with a cylinder and take the cylinder off and grind on it and put it back and try it, and take it back off and grind on it and put it back on and try it, and that's just not me. So I don't fiddle with stuff like that in that way. I like to do something pretty much as good as possible, put it together and leave it, and then run it. And I run my oil probably somewhere near 40 or 32 or 40 to 1, somewhere in there. It's never an exact mix. Latest regarding toolkit availability. The latest is last night I was down on the shoreline. I drove down to meet a couple machinists, and there was another guy out in Indiana that said he could do it, but he was having... Yeah, John Riley is in Tennessee. But there was a guy out in Indiana that was going to do the tools, but he's having health issues. So, and I keep having guys banging down my door for these things, so I know I got to get them up and going. The guys down on the shoreline, which is nice, it's not super local, but it's pretty local because it's in Connecticut. Those guys have basically a minimum order of 200 pieces, so which means I got to pony up the money for that. They're going to get back to me because there's a number of different kind of design considerations for how they want to machine these first go around. And so they'll get back to me. They were supposed to get back to me today. I got a quote from a steel place to get some blanks, and they quoted me some money. It was just off the charts. So I was like, oh, come on. So I got to find a better spot. I have, let's see, The sleeves, I have mostly machined some in large sleeves myself. I still have some small ones sitting around. I really just need the rods to be done, but it's a matter of getting a machinist to do them. Yeah, Tim, I did see John Riley is in Tennessee at the get-together, and I think one of his saws was kicking butt. And Steve runs 50-1 until I can see proven that more oil is better. Okay. I know. I heard you the first time, Steve. I still remember the video because you wanted to talk to Spike 60 about it and say, you know, what do you tell the customers, right? So you take care, Steve. We'll do a chat at some other time. Good to see you. So yeah, Logjam, I hope that answers your question with the tools availability. I think if these guys locally can do it, we are looking at a very short turnaround because they have some very significant equipment. Have I connected to some of the YouTube machinists? No. I have not. Yeah, I'm still not that well known. I'm trying to figure out how to hold the phone here, guys. Sorry. So I'm still not really well known on YouTube. So if I go to one of the guys that's got 100,000 followers, I don't know if I'm going to be taken super seriously. I think I've had enough people come to me and offer services that I can find somebody to do it. And if I can get these guys locally to do it, I mean, I was able to walk into this guy's place at like 9 o'clock last night, and he was still running stuff. So he was showing me he's got a $180,000 machine that is a CNC lathe. So, and if he can do the tools for reasonable money, then I can put an order in for, if it's 200 pieces, it's 200 pieces. So we'll do that. And then maybe I'll have stock for a while, assuming they're good. One of the design considerations was they may actually machine the whole thing instead of from threaded rod, but from bar stock, because he can just spin the thread real easy. That takes almost no time at all to make the outer thread, but he's got to make a land in the middle for where the crossbar gets threaded in. So my only concern about that was if that land is exactly 750 thousandths, say, is it going to fit in the sleeves? So that was that design consideration. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting a kick out of this. How cool is this to do a live stream? Other questions, comments, anything? Yeah, thanks, Tim. I really, until I know I can deliver this, I don't want to take any money from anybody at this point. I gotta, once I have these things in my hand and I know I can deliver, I'll get asking people for money, but I got to be real careful with this because I'm really upset that the last guy, I haven't talked to him in 3 months. I haven't talked to Kelby in in over 3 months now. We're coming up on 4 months, and he has my stuff, he has my money, he has my taps, and I don't know what the deal is, and that's just kind of that hit me at a really bad time. So, 4 months ago I would say, oh yeah, I can deliver, no problem. But now, until I have a new machinist nailed down and parts in my hand, So who just joined? I've got a few guys here now, up to 10 viewers. Holy cow. 11. Who just joined? We're doing a fireside chat. How about some dogs? I really haven't had much for dinner. I should put marshmallows and dogs. I don't know if we have any marshmallows. And the dogs I think we have are frozen. Really kind of disappointing if you ask me. Ten people. We have 10 people on. I think this is crazy. How can you not have dogs? Yeah, I know. Steven, I hear you. Yeah, no dogs. I'm sorry. I guess I just wasn't prepared. How's the mill working? The Bridgeport or the sawmill? I assume you mean the sawmill. The sawmill is good. I have to level the ways again. The rails are kind of a little wonky right now, and it happens because I don't have it on concrete. I have just basically chunks of wood down that I need to level. I would love s'mores, but I can't have the chocolate. I'm allergic to chocolate. But other than that, the mill works good. I mean, as long as you keep the blade sharp, it's pretty good. The 9.5 horse Kohler that's on it starts like one pull every time. It's a really nice motor. It just kind of putts along. I have random issues with the mill. Like, I think I ran into the lubrication tank and it's kind of busted right now. So I have to, I think I hit it with a board or something, so I have to fix that. I had issues with the lubrication system. What it came with was kind of awful. So I needed to rework that, which I did, which now that works fine. I'm still using quite a bit of water. I really like to hose the logs down more or less in the spot where I'm going to cut through, just to get rid of any sand or whatever on the log. And I think that does help blade life. And as soon as the cuts start to get a little wavy, I change out the blade. And so far I've been getting the blades from Cook's, and I think they're Alabama. Cook's sawmill in Alabama. I just get their regular Excel blades, and they work pretty good. Supposedly, they cut the beam at the get-together. No, I did not. I could have, but I didn't. Use wood wedges to level. Yeah, I literally use just shims of wood to level things out. Some areas sink more than others, that's all. Run into your log stop. I've run into my log stops a couple of times. I don't think 5 yet, but I think it's been a couple. And thank God that my blades are only like, if you buy a pack of 10, they're $16.50 a piece, including shipping, which is not bad. But you still get kind of pissed when you bugger a blade like that. What I've got going, what I'd really like to do is a project to make a sharpener. I need to build a sharpener. And I've got a lot of the stuff I need for it, but I need to actually physically build it. And I don't know if it's going to be YouTube worthy or not. It might just be an awful process to put that thing together because they're so complex to get a sharpener going properly. So yeah, so I do use wood, basically just thin shims of wood to level everything out, and usually it's okay then. I've never had the rails super level. I've never had them perfect. I mean, it's always been, if you go from one end to the other, you're probably plus or minus at least 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, I think the Norwood does take the same blade. The out of the wood channel. No, I don't think so. I did see, there was one guy that I was watching the other day, and he was describing how he quarter sawed wood, and he was not even remotely close to doing it correctly. So I was trying to comment very gently. It's like, no, dude, that's not how you do it. And he was using a Woodmiser LM10. Steven, does your Norwood have much area above the blade? Because mine, the issue is the area above the blade, between the blade and the frame, is only like 7 inches. So that kind of limits me to the certain amount of cutting that I can do. I would love to do more quarter sawing, but the problem with that is if you make a nice big chunk, with quarter sawing, you really want to take it from the bottom every time. You know, you set your mill at like 1 inch off the bunks and take your cut on the quarter. Just take your cut off the bottom, pull the log off, pull the board out, then just turn the log and then make another cut at 1 inch. But if you don't have much throat, then you have a problem. Yeah, it gets tight. Yeah, it's the 8 inches too tight. Yeah, so the Woodland Mills is even tighter, and it definitely is a significant limitation on the mill, on what I do. I mean, for the most part, for what I do, it's more of an annoyance. Is it really a necessity for me to have more? No, but it's more of an annoyance. It'd be nice to take a 36-inch diameter log and just go right down the middle of it, but I can't do that. You could do it with a chainsaw mill, sort of. It is a perfect night. Could be watching the game. Rather hang out with you guys. I have chisels and things, pry bars and whatnot that I pull the bark off with. But if it doesn't come off easy, then I run a lot of water spray on it. And that actually helps. I caught a lot of crap from different guys saying that the water spray is terrible. And then it fills up all the gullets, but I haven't seen that. There's really no water coming out the other side. Even if I take a hose and pour it right on the blade as it's going through, there's no water coming out the other side. It's just dust. So the idea is not necessarily to put the water on the blade, but you want to put the garden hose right in front of the blade so the blade is lubricated, but also you're knocking all the dirt off the bark that could possibly be there. So still the bark holds more sand and whatnot, and dirt, than the internals. Oh, you're doing both at the same time? That's good, Tim. Multitasker. I wrecked my pitchfork today. The darn thing, it broke right at the hub, effectively. I got the. It's not over there, but I put it over there. But whoever built it, put the grain in the handle wrong, so it's wrecked. I got to go back to Lowe's and get them to give me a new one, because they're the dummies that actually put lifetime warranty on it. So the grain is going like, it's no different than a baseball bat. You know, you have the grain a certain way on a baseball bat. Same thing. In this case, you want it like this. Anyway, have I tried a drip oiler? The drip oiler was on there to start, and I assume you're talking about the lubrication system for the mill. Steven, I'll get to your question in a minute. It had a drip system to begin with, and it was terrible. So I made a system with felt, so it drips onto the felt and lubricates the blade that way. Effectively, it's a wick. And I think Cook's does that too. That's how their mills are made, and because they have that system standard, and a nice heavy felt wick, and I think it works pretty good. Do I get to mill much hardwood? No. I don't get lots of hardwood to mill, and I really don't want to, because oak is gorgeous, but I have no actual need for it. Yeah, Tim, you can actually look. I have a video on how I made the wick and all that stuff. I think there's a video somewhere on that. You can look for it. But yeah, back to the oak. I mean, oak is beautiful, but you really have to quarter saw it to get the most out of the oak. And my mill is too small, I think, for that to really to make it easy to do quarter sawing because of the throat size. So I don't do lots of oak. And, you know, let's assume I can do it. I do it. What do you do with it? Yeah, I get. Did I finish the oak plank project? What oak plank project? I don't know. I mainly get pine because it's free. Most people aren't going to drop off oak unless they want something done with it. So if it's a commissioned cut, if somebody says, hey, Matt, I'd like this cut a particular way, then I can do that. Then I have something to do with the oak. But other than that, I don't have anything to do with the oak. I have all oak floors in my house, but I mean, they're already there. What am I going to do? Add more? So I don't normally do lots of oak. Did I finish the oak plank project? Oak plank project. I have a bunch of oak planks. They're sitting in a pile behind me, outside under a tarp, drying. Are you talking about the really big oak plank that I had? I made an awning over my door to my shed with a really big oak plank. It's like a 2x10 that's 14 feet long. God, that thing's heavy. So that I did finish. Actually, the only thing that I need to do is a piece of flashing and then put the siding up there. Do I have a way to check for metal? No, I don't. I know, I catch hell for that too. I need to have a metal detector, but I just don't run into lots of metal. Thank goodness. Most of the stuff I get, I don't have lots of metal in. Of course, the one for the video, one of my more popular videos, I hit a number of nails, and they were not normal nails. They were like the old-fashioned square kind that were really hard. So within 2 cuts, my blade was shot. Ponderosa blue. Yeah, for me, it doesn't, give me pine, hemlock, whatever. As long as it's free, I'll cut it up and make boards out of it. I'm just building a shed, so I built my shed, and I may build a second one. But as it turns out, I'm really not that good of a carpenter, and I'm really not that good of a woodworker. So I like milling, but I'm really not the best carpenter. Part of my carpentry skills come from, or my lack of carpentry skills come from the fact that I don't have really straight lumber. But I can blame it on that, but whatever. For the equipment trailer, yeah, that I finished a while ago. All the oak planks that, where was that? Do I have that video up? I may or may not have a video up on that. I had like a nearly 14. Well, the awning actually has literally a piece of scrap from that project. So the 2x10 that I pulled out of that was literally a piece I had left over from that big project. So my buddy Steve wanted me to do a bunch of oak planks to put on a trailer for excavators. And it was like the most gorgeous 2-inch thick, 7-inch wide, 14 feet long pieces of red oak. And they were beautiful, no knots, gorgeous. And of course he's gonna put them on the deck to put excavators on. It was just biggest crime. It was awful. I just hung my head when I handed all that stuff to him. Oh, it was bad. It was beautiful though. Yeah, the stacking and stickering, I'd rather not do it. I'd rather not stack and sticker anything. I'd rather just mill, because that's me. But unfortunately, you have to do something with the logs, with the lumber rather. And what I found was something that I really never thought of was, if you're making a pile of lumber, and let's say you're stacking it, 1, 2, 3 on a pile. Well, if you're making, let's say, 2x12s and you're stacking them 1, 2, 3 next to each other, and you have to cut them in multiples of 3. So if you don't cut them in multiples of 3, then you're going to end up with something weird, a single at the top, a double at the top, whatever. So you have to consider all of that when you're actually milling and what you're going to get out of it. There's a lot of planning involved. Yeah, you definitely need to stack. I mean, I actually make custom-made pallets. One of the first things I do if I'm going to make a stack of lumber is I make a custom-made pallet, and then I have to more or less level it on the ground, make it so it's not going to move that much, and then I can stack lumber on top of the custom-made pallet and stack it and sticker it and stack it and sticker it. But stickers always end up being an afterthought for me. And I'm sure anybody else that does milling basically has kind of the same problem. Because milling is all kinds of fun. Stacking and stickering, not so much. This fire's dying down. Just think of that. All this wood around here, and we got a fire that's dying. Did somebody just join? Stickers are your first cut. Yeah, you know, for a lot of guys, that's true. I mean, probably should be. For me, I make stickers kind of in between things. So if I'm making a random cut or whatever, I like, oh, I should take a sticker cut on this, because I cut them about 1/2 inch thick, or on my mill, there are 2 turns on the. Anybody that has a Norwood, you think if you make a single turn, it's like 1 inch thick. On my mill, if you take a turn, it's considered a quarter. So 4 turns is actually a little more than 1 inch. But it's a 2-turn board is a sticker for me. We have the government put out ladybugs out for the bug that's in the hemlock. What's in the hemlock? And how do ladybugs fix it? Ladybug epidemic? Yeah. Wow. We're losing all of our ash trees here because of the emerald ash borer. So all the ash trees here in Connecticut are going. Thousands of trees. Towns are going broke trying to pay for all the tree guys to take them all down. A lot of work. Anybody new here? For the new people, we're just having a fireside chat. I can't actually see who's here. I can see how many people are here, but I can't see who, I don't think. If I tap on it, it doesn't show me. If I hit live chat, it shows me the chat, but it doesn't show me who's here. Down to 7 now. What do you guys think? Should we do this more often? Do a live chat more often, just for the hell of it? Now we're back up to 8 people. I think we should do this more often. I haven't had this much fun in a while. Nine people. Anybody new? Who's new? Just having a fireside chat. Yeah, soon. Yeah, we got. It's cool. It's now cooling off tonight. It might be low 60s at this point. Little while, we'll definitely have it. Can't get rid of the ladybugs. That's funny. So anybody that's new, we're just having a fireside chat. You're welcome to chime in. Any questions, comments, anything. Anybody that's new, fireside chat. Questions, comments, put them in the comment thing there for me. Good. Well, why would you want to get rid of the ladybugs? Just simply too many? Stefan, enjoy your evening. Enjoy your HBB lecture. Steven, snow? Really? Just too early. We're trying to get everything kind of buttoned up here for the winter. Got a fence to put up, siding to do on the shed 4 years later. Too many, sweep them up at thousands. Wow. Actually, I still have tomatoes. I have a couple of plants that I still have not gotten tomatoes, ripe tomatoes off of yet. They're coming. Hey, Ryan. Question of 385, 390 bearings. Does Nachi make bearings that fit both sides of the case? No. Nachi makes one side. The 6203s go on the flywheel side. The PTO side is a proprietary bearing which you must get from Husky. Anybody that's new, we're doing a fireside chat. Put the comments in the section. Comments, questions, anything. How much power increase do you get from a pop-up piston? I don't have an average there, Big Giant. But if you just put a pop-up piston in, you're actually going to lower compression. So you have to do something else to initially decrease the squish. So a base gasket delete would work, but a base gasket delete then might be all you need to do rather than anything else. Because if you delete the base gasket, then your squish might go from 40 to 20 thousandths, and then in which case doing a pop-up piston doesn't help you very much. That make any sense? Gasket delete not possible in a 390. Okay, then I will suggest finding a different chainsaw. Hey, Leonard. If you're Big Giant, you're hearing from third round. If you're a steel 390 is not a chainsaw I would choose to modify that much. Essentially, it's an MS290 with a bigger head on it, and personally, I will never work on another one of those. They just drive me crazy. But if you cannot do a base gasket delete because it's a clamshell or whatever, then my suggestion would be to find another chainsaw that you could modify. Hey, Leonard, we're just having a fireside chat here, so if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to, mainly chainsaws. We've been talking about trees and baseball a little bit and all kinds of different stuff. Ladybugs. Yeah, I like sawing too. I don't know whether I like wrenching more or cutting more. What saw brand is the best I've ever serviced? That is a very. It's not a brand specific thing. It really isn't. I've tried to take apart an MS290 a number of times, and they drive me crazy. They just do. I think it's very saw specific within the brands. I'm on a 250. Yeah, my father-in-law, who actually was here a few minutes ago, my father-in-law has a 250, and that is not a chainsaw I would choose to fiddle with. Is it a fine saw? Does it work? Yeah, but I would not fiddle with it. I just don't think it's flexible enough. I think the Husqvarna 350 is a great platform to fiddle with a small saw. Once you get it right, it is a real runner. And basically any of the Stephen, any of the smaller Steel Pro models will work. 026, 036, the 044s. I mean, you can play with all those like crazy. Hey, Christopher, I see you up there. So, yeah, Ryan, the Brett's buddy has quite the shop over there, and I mean, I think it's going to work. We just need to figure out how to get it to work. So I got to figure out what we're using for stock, whether we're using actual threaded rod or we're using blank stock that Brett's buddy is going to turn. I don't know. I don't know yet, but I think it will work, and we'll get the tools back on track here. Well, Adirondacks. I like the 350 and the 394. So the 350 or the 346 XP, both of those are really, I would say in the same league for small saws. They both had advantages and disadvantages, but either a 346 or 350 for something small, and then a 394 if your hands, that would be it for me. The 390, the 385, 390 XPs are not bad saws, but it tends to be the one thing that drives me crazy about those is that they have a proprietary bearing on the PTO side. I was just telling Ryan about that. Yeah, the 395, 394. I tend to like the 394s, but I mean the 395 is a quad port version of a 394, and the 390. I never got to tell everybody the. Oh, take care, Stephen. Take care. I never got to tell everybody the difference between the 394s and the 395s. The 395 is quad port instead of dual port for the transfer ports. It also, the 395 uses a rubber boot instead of an intake block like the 394. So that is another difference. But either will run really well. One of the downsides to the 394, 395s is they have the ignition coil fairly forward close to the muffler, where it's placed in the design of the saw. It was placed too close to heat, which means that they cook and you lose ignition coils. So that's one of the design flaws to a 394, 395. So change out the coils every now and again. Who cares? They do have, the nice thing about them is they have identical bearings on both sides. So I love that about those saws. They have just regular old 6203s, and then they have the same seals on either side as well. So I love them for that. What's your thoughts on the Chinese aftermarket with regards to price and availability of potential tariffs? I don't know how the tariffs are going to affect anything, so I don't have a great comment on that. I think that I think you're talking about the difference between ordering from Huzzle directly as opposed to ordering from somebody like HL Supply that's going to be importing, because HL Supply probably does import directly from Huzzle, so themselves, but they just buy a quantity. They'll buy in a container load or whatever. And I just so you guys know, I have some inside information from HL Supply, but not tons in this regard. So I could be completely talking out my rear with this. So HL Supply will likely be subjected to the same tariffs, whatever comes or goes. I think the Chinese aftermarket is particularly interesting. And I think the Chinese aftermarket was basically because of Steel and Husqvarna. Up to 12, maybe a record. No, the record's 13. Record's 13. But Steel and Husqvarna are in the selling chainsaws business. They are not in the parts business. And this is my own opinion, but they're really not in the parts business. So it seems to me like Steel and Husky have 13, sweet. Having a fireside chat, everybody. Post up questions if you got questions. So I've said this before, I'll say it again. So what Steel and Husky have done is if one of their saws needs a rebuild, all of the parts needed to do the rebuild are so cost prohibitively high that the salespeople are basically instructed to show them the new chainsaw rack. So, that's their business. They don't want to be selling parts. So what they've done is they have priced out their parts so far out the realm of anything that's reasonable, so that you basically have to go buy a new saw. And then suddenly enter the Chinese that, China, Taiwan, whoever, and they're supplying parts for actual reasonable money. Who's not going to buy that? It's a party, and I've got a dying fire. So if anybody is, if you're looking for parts, yeah, the culture is there. The culture is we have now a kit chainsaw for the first time in the history of the planet. We have kit chainsaws. Are they awesome? No, but are they good to fiddle with? Sure. Are they good to have fun with, to learn how to put something together? Oh yeah. But it definitely opens up a whole new realm for people to learn, to study how these things are put together, to come up with modifications, whatever. In my case, I've come up with tooling, which I think is super slick. But the tooling helps everybody, all the newbies put things together, and it turns out it helps pros put things together too. Right, then you get into the whole duplicate. They don't have an engineering department; they have a copy machine. What's the expression? Steal the best, invent the rest. So they do a lot of duplicating of parts, no question. But then again, I see the problem with Steel and Husky, that they have made it so cost prohibitively expensive to get parts that China ends up being the solution for, even parts that are not going to be made any longer. And the parts, and a lot are junk, but not all of them. You're right. You comb through the parts that are good and not. And that actually does take somebody with a little bit more experience and make bad calls sometimes too. Every time I think I got a handle on this chainsaw stuff, something throws me for a loop. Really humbling if you think about it. Back down to 11. I thought we were going to get 13 people here. Just in case anybody's new, we're just having a fireside chat. If anybody wants to put questions in the comments section or just talk or whatever, it's fine. You know, one of the aftermarket parts I really do like, and I think it's just awesome and super cheap, are the roller chain catchers, the Chinese roller chain catchers for the Huskies. Those are just fine. If you want to put a clean, fresh one on, man, there's nothing wrong with those things. See, Jason, one of the things that I think the Chinese almost never really intended, they never intended necessarily to have these quote-unquote kits put together as kits. It's technically a complete saw pile of parts, but it was never intended necessarily to put together as a kit. And although that may be semantics to some people, I don't necessarily think they were ever considering that as much of a craze has started. You're welcome to disagree with me on that. But I think it means that the kids are just not. And I gotta wonder if there's anybody actually in China that actually puts these things together and is like, oh crap, that really doesn't fit, or whatever. $1980. Tillotson equipment imported. I thought Tillotson was Ireland. When I go buy ball valves at Home Depot, I buy ball valves only at Home Depot. If I'm doing plumbing. It's because they're actually made in Italy. Every other place that supplies ball valves, even the ones that say America on them, are actually made in China. I try not to buy Chinese ball valves.
Meow.
Yep. I'm literally 100 yards off the highway exit, so I'm really close to the highway. Can't believe you guys heard that. Back down to 9. Yeah, Andy, you actually have an interesting point there. One of the tricks with that, though, And I'll get to that question. But one of the tricks with making a true kit is that the Chinese parts are so much of a moving target. You don't know which ones are going to be good this go around or whatever, and which ones are going to be not as good. So if you had a kit that was part of a certain batch, then the starter might be bad, the cylinder head might be bad, but the piston's good. The clutches might be good, but the clutch bearings are bad. Whatever it might be, but the next batch, that may not be true. So if the whole thing was static, then you could pick out certain OEM parts, include them, and say, okay, here's your kit, and then sell those. But as it turns out, everything's such a moving target that really doesn't work. And really, every go around, you have to determine for yourself whether the parts are good or not. And to answer Adirondacks, yes, I did cover the trees, and I did a little bit of a different configuration this year, and I'm going to do a little bit of a different one next year. But I have to net the trees, otherwise I get nothing. And this year was so wet at the wrong times that I was going to have a couple 100 pounds of cherries. We only had 100 pounds, which was disappointing for me. But, I mean, it's still way more cherries than I'm going to eat. Yeah, chainsaws are hard to make money on no matter what you do. If you're trying to make money on putting a true kit together, you're probably not going to, because the OEM parts are going to be so incredibly expensive to make that kit, something that is... I mean, the dang intake boots are $40. And then, yeah, if you put it together wrong, a little slip here or there, and you have an air leak, and you rev it, and suddenly the whole thing eats itself. And then you got to refund $500 or more for an actual kit. Piston pin bearing, that's 10 or 20 bucks just for that. And of course, I'm thinking of like the 660s specifically, because they do tend to be best bang for buck. It might be copyright infringement, Jason, but I think a lot of the designs are old enough that they're not going to chase it down. No, I do not get drunk jaybirds on the cherry trees. The birds do not get a single one of the cherries that are actually under the net. But yes, the copyright infringement, I think the Chinese are really trying to avoid that type of trouble by going after some of the older designs. So, for instance, the Seal 660 is not a design that is currently in production. Yeah, they're making parts for it, but they're not producing it. So right now they're producing the 661. So the Chinese, essentially, as far as I can see, are simply fulfilling a niche that Steel and Husky won't fulfill. And they could care less about anyway. I mean, if you're a tree guy, most of the tree guys, that are out there, they really simply need to just walk into Steel or Husky dealer and just sell their soul and buy a whole pile of saws that have warranties with them and walk out the door and start cutting, and that's their whole deal. Unless you're a fiddler, or let's say you like the 200 Ts. Ryan, if you're still around, I mean, your dad was, pretty adamant he liked his 200s. And that's a very common sentiment. Anybody that goes buys a 201T, they might not like it compared to their old 200. So what to do? Well, rebuild the 200s. In case there's anybody new, we're having a fireside chat just for the heck of it. Anybody wants to have any comments, questions, go for it. Channel 10 report. 11 o'clock by a small fire. Well, it's not even really a fire at this point. Not much to report on. Anybody here go to the get-together today in Tennessee? Well, the thing with the 200s is they eat carburetors. The watermelon. What watermelon? I think they're changing the covers to blue. I don't know whether it's a legal issue or what. Well, the price of saws is high, Tim. But the high price of saws. Sorry, blanked out there for a second. Price of saws got so high it makes it. The Chinese made parts certainly help fill a niche anyway. That, and it's a niche that I think Steel and Husky refused to fill. Isn't what a state, long ways from CT. What's a state? Is Andy a relative? Yes, he is. We have 13 people. 14 would be a record. Tennessee. Yes, Tennessee is a long ways away from Connecticut, but there is a get-together in Jamestown today. If anybody's here that went, I hope everybody had a good time and stayed safe. Hope everybody had a good time and stayed safe. There was a chainsaw get-together down there that I was going to go. What's the tinker going when all... What? What, Jason? Jamestown, New York would be closer. But it's not Jamestown, New York. They're in Jamestown, Tennessee. For anybody that's new, we're having a fireside chat, just for the heck of it. The fire is dying down now. Oh yeah, a lot of the saw market's going to auto-tune. For now, I refuse to work on them. I really have no need to work on an auto-tune saw. I have ran them, but I don't. Up 14, it's a record. It's a record. We're having a fireside chat for anybody that's new. Feel free to ask questions, throw questions out there before my battery runs out. Jamestown, Tennessee, what big town is? I don't know. I don't know what big town it is. It's at Mastermind's place, and I don't know I think it's in the middle of nowhere. Just wondering if anybody that was here on the chat happened to be happened to go today or was part of it. We had 14 for a second. It was there. Yeah, look up Mastermind Work Saws. If anybody has any questions, I'm here. Ask them before I freeze to death out here at 60 degrees and fire's dying. Windy. Gotta move a little closer to the fire. That way I keep warm. 15 people. It is a record. Check that out. I saw 15 there for just a second. You need dentists in Georgia? They need them in Connecticut, too. Hey, Al. What do you think about the Huzzle Blue 660? I don't know. You mean the complete one? If it's me, I would prefer to build them myself. But that's just me. Mostly because there's quite a bit of... Hey, Maggie. Mostly because there's quite a bit of parts in there that I'd like to swap out for OEM. Yeah, I would prefer to build it myself, but I think they're crazy to offer a warranty with with that saw. Mostly, you know, one of the problems with buying parts from China is it takes weeks to get, and warranty issues are always a pain. The way that I look at it is, you know, there are guys that are, you know, go back and forth with them and, oh, the cylinder head's no good, blah, 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 whatever. No, you know, you get what parts you get is what parts you get. You know, if you get a saw and it's a turd, kind of too bad, because it's going to take you forever to fight with them to get a new one. And what are you going to do, ship the old one back? I don't know, it's just the way I look at it. Yeah, so Jamestown, Tennessee is in the sticks, as far as I know. Anyway. Yeah, Jason, I did the video on that, and I did a lot of video on that, and I haven't posted it because I essentially... I don't know. I basically came to the conclusion that yes, you do have to switch out the multifunction lever and the trigger to OEM in order to get it to work right. That was the real long story short, and I just haven't gotten around to posting a video of that yet. Yeah, Al, I'm surprised that they allow you to import that as a whole saw. I mean, if you can, you know, great. But whether you have a quote-unquote good one or not, the ones that come from Huzzle have some issues, and there are certain things that I would definitely change out. First thing would be the piston pin bearing. And Walt would certainly argue that the handle needs to be swapped too, and a few other things, you know. Yeah, I was thinking of driving to Tennessee, but it's 700-800 miles, and we're busy here, so. But the steels, the MS660s from Huzzle are, I think, probably the best bang for buck out of all the stuff that they're offering right now. When I order parts from them, I do order quite a few, aftermarket parts from them directly. I order parts from HL Supply. I order OEM parts from all kinds of places. But when I order parts from Huzzle, I'll order a pile of, a single thing just so I have certain things on hand. And like I said before, I do like the roller chain catchers. They're really inexpensive and they work just fine. Questions, comments, anything else, guys? I'm just getting a kick out of this. This is crazy. 11 people hanging out with me. Yeah, Al, I hear you. That is the kind of money that hard to turn down. A nearly 90cc saw for $269. I mean, what are you supposed to say? No? Adirondacks, can you rephrase the question? Depends, like the cheap ones at Lowe's. I mean, those are, as far as I know, the Huskies. Home line, whatever, of saw, and it includes the 455 Rancher, which I do tend to like because I think they're pretty easy to take apart and put back together. But for most home use, that generally works pretty good. So where do I get saws that are professionally put together? Yeah, so you get pro saws at dealers. So a Steel dealer or a Husky dealer, there are all kinds of power equipment dealers that are, dealers for one or the other. And Makita has now taken over Dolmar, so that's going to be a pretty big player in the saw realm. Red Max too, I think, is going to be a bit of a player in chainsaws, but really Steel and Husky are the heavy hitters at this point. So they do make a professional line of saws, and you get them at dealers, and they come with a significant warranty. So if you're a home guy or tree guy, doesn't matter. You get a warranty with your saw. You have a problem, you just plunk it right down on the counter. Yeah, $1,300 for a 661. $1,300 probably for a 395 Husky 395. Stuff's pricey. But then again, I mean, that's the pointy end. If you are, if you're a tree guy, you can have all kinds of equipment. But if your saw don't cut, guess what? That tree ain't gonna be on the ground. Thoughts on the Echo line? The only Echo saw that I put together was in a video. I think it's the 400. And there were some things about the saw I liked and some things about the saw I didn't like. So I don't have a particular set of opinions on the Echoes at this point. So there's certain things philosophically I like about some saws. So like the 394s, 395s, I like the fact that the bearings are the same on the PTO side and on the flywheel side, and that the seals are the same on both sides. Is it cheaper to order saw kits to your link to H&L or direct from Hustle? Probably direct from Hustle. Probably direct through. If you're, it depends. The nice thing about ordering through HL Supply is if they say it's in stock, it's in stock, and you're going to get it faster, like a lot faster. Puzzle takes 2 weeks or more because of customs. And that could be for a single little part or a chain. It doesn't matter. I mean, the customs can be a real pain in the neck. Well, Al, think of it as a project. Think of it as a tinkering thing. You know? If you want something to fiddle around with for $269, hey. Yeah, 5-year warranty on a chainsaw, that's significant. All depends on the intended use. You know, what are you going to do with it? The kit saws are fun to put together. It's quite a project. It's even more of a puzzle if you're trying to figure out what parts are good and what parts are bad. And then you got to go down to the dealer and order this and that, like the dang multifunction switch or whatever it was. Aw, back down to 9. Single digits. Suncoast string turmeric multi-tool Amazon. No. I have not. And guys, I'm yawning. This has been fun and quite the kick. I should go to bed. Back up to 10. Just as I'm about to say I'm going to go to bed. 11. Who's here? Who just showed up? Sorry guys, we've been doing this for nearly 2 hours now. It's crazy. Leonard, you're in New Zealand? Blows my mind. Joe, how you doing? I have not run very many Echo saws, no. I should call it a night, and Joe, forgive me, I've been on for a bit here, and I'm starting to yawn, so I better go to bed. Yeah, it's going to be Sunday here soon. It was nice talking with everybody. It really was. This is cool, and I will do this again. I'm really starting to get into this live stream stuff. This is cool. Andy, you have a good night. Joe, Leonard, Al, Tim, Jason, Ryan. This has been super fun. Whoever else is here, forget who's been here, but this has been super fun. So we will do this again. And anybody has any questions, save them up. And we will talk to you soon. Night, guys. Night, Dennis.